The power of now. Most people believe their life is happening somewhere in the future or stuck in the past. We tell ourselves that peace will arrive when things improve, when money is stable, when relationships heal, or when success finally shows up. Eckhart Tolle opens the power of now by quietly dismantling this belief. He doesn't do it with dramatic claims or spiritual theatrics. Instead, he asks a simple, unsettling question. If your life is always somewhere else, when exactly are you alive? This question becomes the doorway into the book's central realization that nearly all human suffering is rooted in our inability to live in the present moment. From the very beginning, Tolle invites the reader to notice something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. The only time that has ever existed is now, and yet we spend most of our lives escaping it. Tolle begins by exploring how the mind dominates human existence. He explains that for most people, the voice inside their head never stops talking. It narrates, judges, compares, remembers, worries, plans, and rehearses imaginary conversations. This constant mental noise feels so normal that people mistake it for who they are. Tolle calls this mistaken identity the ego, the false self created by thought. The ego survives by constantly feeding on time, either pulling energy from the past through regret and resentment or projecting itself into the future through anxiety and desire. Rarely does it allow a person to rest fully in the present moment. According to Tolle, this compulsive thinking is not intelligence, it is addiction. As he moves deeper, Tolle introduces the idea of watching the thinker. The moment you observe your thoughts, instead of being swept away by them, something profound happens. You realize that thoughts come and go, but awareness remains. This awareness is not a thought, it is the space in which thoughts appear. Tolle emphasizes that awakening begins the instant you recognize that you are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. This distinction sounds simple, yet it carries radical consequences. When thoughts are no longer mistaken for identity, their emotional charge begins to dissolve. From here, Tolle explores the relationship between time and suffering. Psychological time, he explains, is the mental habit of living in memories and projections. While practical time is necessary for functioning in the world, psychological time is unnecessary and harmful. The past exists only as a memory activated in the present, and the future exists only as imagination experienced now. Yet humans continuously give these mental constructs more power than the present moment itself. Tolle suggests that anxiety is the price we pay for living in the future, while guilt and sadness are the price we pay for living in the past. Freedom lies in withdrawing attention from both and returning fully to the now. The book then turns toward emotional pain and introduces one of Tolle's most striking concepts, the pain body. He describes it as an accumulation of old emotional pain that lives inside the body and mind. This pain body can be dormant for long periods, then suddenly awaken when triggered by certain situations, people, or thoughts. When activated, it feeds on negative emotions and seeks more pain to sustain itself. Many conflicts, arguments, and self-sabotaging behaviors, Tolle argues, are driven not by conscious choice, but by the pain body temporarily taking control. Awareness, once again, is the key. When you observe the pain body without judgment, without feeding it through resistance or storytelling, it begins to dissolve. Tolle carefully explains that most people unconsciously derive a sense of identity from their suffering. Stories of victimhood, betrayal, and injustice give the ego something to cling to. Letting go of suffering feels threatening because it feels like losing oneself. But Tolle reassures the reader that what is lost is not the true self, but a false identity built on pain. True peace, he says, is not the absence of problems, but the absence of resistance to what is. As the narrative continues, Tolle shifts from theory into lived presence. He explains that the present moment is not an idea, it is a direct experience. Presence is felt through the body, through sensory awareness, through stillness. One of the simplest doorways into the now is conscious breathing. By bringing attention to the breath, the mind naturally slows down. Another doorway is feeling the inner body, the subtle energy field within. When attention rests in the body, thinking loses its grip. Tolle emphasizes that enlightenment is not a future achievement, but a shift in consciousness available at any moment. The book also addresses the misconception that living in the now means neglecting responsibilities or goals. Tolle clarifies that action arising from presence is actually more effective, creative, and intelligent. When action is rooted in the present, rather than driven by fear or desire, it becomes effortless. He differentiates between doing and being, explaining that true power flows from being. Doing without being leads to stress and burnout, while being naturally expresses itself through inspired action. Tolle then explores acceptance as a core practice. Acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation. It means acknowledging what is without mental resistance. Resistance, he explains, is the inner no to the present moment, and it is this resistance that creates suffering. When resistance drops, situations often change on their own, or clarity emerges about what action to take. Tolle famously states that whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. This radical acceptance frees energy that was previously trapped in opposition. Relationships are another major theme. Tolle explains that most relationships are ego-based, meaning they are driven by unconscious needs for validation, control, and completion. This often leads to cycles of attraction and conflict. Conscious relationships, on the other hand, are rooted in presence. When two people are present together, the ego has nothing to feed on. Tolle suggests that relationships are not meant to make us happy, but to make us conscious. Conflict becomes an opportunity for awakening rather than suffering. As the book moves toward its later sections, Tolle addresses the illusion of seeking fulfillment through external conditions. He explains that happiness based on circumstances is unstable and fleeting. True joy, peace, and love arise from within, from alignment with the present moment. When people stop seeking salvation in the future, they discover that what they were looking for has always been here. The now is not boring or empty, as the mind fears. It is alive, spacious, and deeply peaceful. Tolle also discusses surrender, which he presents not as weakness, but as intelligence. Surrender means yielding to the present moment instead of fighting it. When life feels heavy, surrender removes the psychological weight. He explains that suffering often intensifies when people resist pain instead of allowing it to be felt fully. By allowing pain without labeling it or narrating it, it transforms. What remains is presence. Toward the end, Tolle emphasizes that awakening is not about becoming special or superior. In fact, spiritual ego can be just as deceptive as material ego. True awakening is marked by simplicity, humility, and deep compassion. It is not something you have, it is something you are. The awakened state recognizes itself in others, beyond form, beyond personality. The book closes by reminding the reader that the present moment is always accessible. No matter what has happened in the past or what may happen in the future, now remains untouched. Life unfolds only in this moment, and when we meet it fully, we discover that peace is not something to be achieved, but something to be realized. In conclusion, The Power of Now is not a book to be read once and shelved. It is an invitation to a completely different way of living. Eckhart Tolle does not offer motivational hype or complex philosophy. He offers a mirror. The message is disarmingly simple, yet profoundly transformative. Step out of the mind, anchor yourself in the present, and life opens in ways the thinking mind could never predict. When the obsession with past and future loosens its grip, What remains is a quiet, alert presence that feels like coming home. The power you have been searching for has never been missing. It has only been waiting in the now.